Undroppables Playbook, a football podcast. With your hosts, Ashley and Mike, please sit back and enjoy the show.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Undroppables Playbook, a football podcast presented by the Undroppables and sponsored by Analyst Depot. I am your host, Ashley. This is my lovely co-host, Michael Duncan. How are you?
I'm great.
I know you are.
Well, actually, I'm not a little bit, honestly. Joel Embiid isn't an NBA All-Star starter, and that's stupid, and I'm angry about it, and that came out like 10 minutes ago, so I haven't really dealt with it yet emotionally.
Yeah, I haven't processed it.
But otherwise, I'm doing great.
Okay, yeah, that's definitely not, I think there's more to be excited about than there is to dwell on that.
Absolutely, but I'm still going to dwell because I'm from Philadelphia, and that's what we do best.
I know. I haven't been feeling the best, and that's why we're doing this on Thursday instead of on Wednesday. And I just couldn't miss this show because then it looks like I'm running from it. But it was not a fun game, to say the least.
I had a ton of fun. I don't know what you're talking about.
I'm sure you did. On my end, it was not.
I don't know why.
Yeah. I don't know why anyone would avoid the Boston Scott anytime touchdown score line. One of my friends was like, do I do that? Like, I feel like that feels so far out there. And even I was like,
far out there every time.
Don't do it. Like, I was like, don't skip out on it. Like, you have to bet that. You have to bet that. And he did, and he won, and it was electric. But
Boston Scott against the Giants is probably the most reliable thing in my life.
It's like, what is he? I think he has like something like 13, 14 touchdowns, and like 12 of them have come against the Giants.
Yeah, it's a little more than that, but yeah.
Yeah, something like that. Almost every last one of his touchdowns has come against the Giants. It's very odd. And at that point, they were just, one of my Giants podcasts called it Playing with Their Food. And that's exactly what that was. So, Boston's got anytime touchdown scorer, I guess.
Always.
Yeah. All right, well, why don't we get into some news first, and then we're going to do, obviously, we only have 2 games left this coming weekend, so we'll do a little bit of a recap of the games we saw this past weekend. But there is plenty of news to talk about. We do have our first head coach vacancy that is filled. Former Indianapolis Colts head coach Frank Reich has been hired to be the Panthers head coach. He did spend some time in the Carolinas, so he's kind of having a reunion back in that state. So, yeah.
Can I go a little more in depth on that? Because that is one of the worst ways I've ever heard his tenure in Carolina described. He was actually the first quarterback to ever take a snap for the Carolina franchise. Yeah, he spent, I think, 3 seasons with the Panthers.
Yep.
So
yeah. That's one.
Spent some time in the Carolinas. That could mean on vacation.
I mean, it could.
That could have meant nothing to do with football.
Yeah. Well,
okay.
I think everyone spent some time in the Carolinas. Most people. Have you ever vacationed there?
Yeah, I have.
Which one? North or south?
South.
Okay. Been to both. Mostly north. Also, I did skip over. I do want to point out the NFL is mourning a loss. Jesse Leominer, who was a former Lion and Chargers linebacker, has died at the age of 25. So you'll see some postings about that. We give our best to his family. He has a child on the way, and it's really sad to see someone else go at a really young age. But I just do want to point that out because he was, the Chargers and the Lions are both posting about it. I do want to talk about some more coaching vacancies that have been talked about. Sean Payton, it looks like the odds are in favor of him returning to TV this season. It doesn't seem like anything is very appealing to him. Obviously the front runner, I don't know if it's him or what, but the one that was most interested in him was the Broncos, and former Broncos head coach, short-lived, Nate Hackett, is now the Jets offensive coordinator. And everybody in the media is thrilled because the Aaron Rodgers rumors are already swirling, especially because of the relationship he's had with Zach Wilson. He's been very outspoken about Zach Wilson and his troubles when he was, getting benched and starting. Aaron Rodgers was very outspoken about, giving him a chance and how it happens in the NFL and that kind of thing. So there's talk of maybe Rodgers could come in and start and mentor him. I don't know. The media is having a field day with it now that Nate Hackett has been hired as the offensive coordinator.
Aaron Rodgers is not who I would want to mentor Zach Wilson,
No.
at least as a person.
I saw a tweet that was like, do you think about Aaron Rodgers in the New York media? Like, that players will tell you, players who spend their careers in 10 different places will tell you it's one of the hardest places to play just simply because of the media. And I could not imagine it from either perspective. I could not imagine him having to deal with it, and I could not imagine what the media would do with it, if that makes sense.
It would be like a little less controversial than Kyrie Irving, but a lot more caring because no one cares about the Brooklyn Nets.
Exactly. Yep. And the Jets are like, this up-and-coming team and maybe a quarterback away, a Super Bowl defense, and the thought is wild. The Cowboys have retained both of their coordinators. Defensive coordinator Dan Quinn is staying on staff, as is offensive coordinator Kellen Moore. And I know we had talked about a couple weeks ago with Mike McCarthy's job that Jerry Jones had said his job was safe.
That's not true. If I had seen that, I would have fixed it. Mike McCarthy has not confirmed that Kellen Moore will be back.
Oh, so Dan Quinn did. For some reason, the headline says keeping both. So that is my bad. So
Mike
Dan
McCarthy
Quinn
doesn't
is
guarantee, and then he said that all coaches will be evaluated.
Okay, perfect. So there we go. Thank you for fixing that. But we know for a fact Dan Quinn, who has had over the last several years many interviews, including second interviews with teams to be a head coach. He was a former head coach of the Atlanta Falcons, the 28-3 Atlanta Falcons. But he is now staying on as the defensive coordinator, and he's had a lot of success with the Cowboys defense. So that is where he will stay put for this year. And the NFL honors were announced. We are not going to get into depth on that this week. We're going to get into depth more next week, leading up to the Super Bowl when we have some free time.
I will be angry.
Yeah, I know you will. Either way, if you want to look at who's nominated and get a head start on what we're going to talk about next week, the NFL honors, the finalists have been announced.
Matters more who's not there. I'll say that.
Okay. Either way, would you like to give us a 15-second frenzy or anything else in the news you would like to talk about before we get into it? Nope. Okay. Perfect. 15-second frenzy. What is it?
All right. I have 15 seconds to talk about every game. Ashley's going to tell me when I have to move on to the next one. And this week there's only 4 games.
So perfect. Ready?
Yep.
Count you in. 3, 2, 1, go.
Jags at Chiefs. Chiefs won a tough one with an injured Mahomes, and Pacheco helped by running for almost 100 yards, which if they have their running game going, that's great for the offense. Kelsey was a monster, and everyone else on the offense didn't really do much outside of Kelsey receiving-wise. The Jags held in there, but couldn't get a stop on defense to do what they needed to do. Bengals at Bills. The Bills looked absolutely defeated. It was never really even a close game. The Bills have a lot of stuff to figure out this offseason. I'm not sure where they need to start. The Bengals, meanwhile, look like they're on a mission. Joe Burrow especially. Big games all around, but Burrow is just determined to get back to that Super Bowl, and he might go 4-0 against Mahomes this next week. Cowboys at Niners. I literally wrote LOL Cowboys. What the hell was that at the end of there? I don't know what that play was. I don't know why you ran it, but it was hysterical, and I'm glad that they gave it to us. Also, Dak isn't that guy, and I'm tired of people pretending otherwise. The Niners are good, and George Kittle's really good. Brock Purdy is fine. So I actually have something prepared for this one, something special. So this is going to be longer than 15 seconds. So please watch and enjoy.
Okay, I'll turn the clock off. 6 games against number 1 seed, the Giants, since the playoffs restructuring in 1990, the Giants are a perfect 6-0. That 6-game win streak versus the number 1 is the longest by any franchise in the NFL since the NFL began seeding the playoff teams in 1975. I love this Giants team.
Do you think they're going to win?
Yes. Since 97, I think the Giants win 1 game. If they win the first game, they end up going to the Super Bowl. I do think the Giants walk away with this one, and it's at that. I think it's a little bit more low scoring than people are expecting. I think the Giants are end up winning it on like a pick 6. I think expect this team to be here. So, do I think it's going to win? Yes. I'll take your real victory too because they're going to win. The Giants are going to win. The Giants have the vibes, man. What's your score prediction?
38-7.
Wow. Thank you so much for that. I'm really glad I wasn't warned ahead of time because then I would have skipped out on the show.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a tough one. It was not. We could start there. So we're gonna get into breaking down a couple of the games. So we can start there. You did guess. All year I've been asking for your score predictions when I am legally able to place bets on it, and you have been wrong up until this time. And this was the
Well,
first time
yeah,
you were
no
right.
one gets score predictions right the majority of the time. Like, what do
I
you
know,
mean?
but still, you
Also,
got it
that's
right
like a
this time.
total of 3 other times you've been able to bet legally.
I know. I spent time in New York.
Okay, if you say so.
Either way, yeah, that was a tough one. I will say the part that really stung the most was Dave Gettleman's ghost coming back to haunt us. With the Bradbury interception, that one really stung, and that one you could feel from a mile away.
That wasn't Dave Gettleman though. That was
No,
the current regime.
yes, but listen, what I will say is we were put in a tight cap space because of what Dave Gettleman did, so it is partially his ghost coming back to haunt us.
See, I think the Dave Gettleman's ghost, I would say it's your roster.
Yeah, well,
as a whole.
Yeah. You could
like less so the player not on your team and more so every other player on your team.
Yeah.
That
Either
would
way,
be the part that I would be concerned
that
about.
part stung the most. And that was like a storyline that you could have written and it came true. Yeah, it wasn't fun. I don't even know. We got beat all around, and that was listen, we've talked about this before, if you're betting with your heart, with your head, obviously I wanted the Giants to win. If I simply thought logically and not as a fan, you'd say the Eagles were going to win. As a fan, I hoped they were going to be able to do it. I thought they might be able to do it.
No, you thought they would do it. You can't backtrack now.
Okay, no, I thought they would do it. Fine.
Yes.
I thought they would do it.
I won't let you backtrack.
That's fine. I'm a fan. I thought they would. That's perfectly fine.
All right.
Either way, it was tough. The Eagles' pass rush is one of the greatest I've seen in a long time.
Maybe
what?
Four Bears.
Oh, yeah. They're really, really good. And when you have to put the ball in Daniel Jones's hands because the roster is devoid of talent in a lot of other places, it's hard when a pass rush is that good. And the defense just couldn't live up to it. You said it. I knew in the back of my head it was true. Dexter Lawrence, who was a game changer, was absolutely outplayed by Jason Kelce. And the thing was, too, a player like Hurts, you do have to blitz. And we couldn't blitz because then we couldn't stop the run. So we played too much zone. You couldn't blitz. And you're in a lose-lose. You're stuck between a rock and a hard place. So yeah, tough loss. I'm still excited for the Giants' future. I think this was not expected at all, but still stings.
Yeah, I mean, we'll talk more about the Giants in the offseason because there's a lot to talk about there. There's a lot to take in, and they have some of the most interesting, I think, decisions in the entire NFL that they have to make this offseason, which is going to be really, really interesting. But yeah, the Eagles took care of business, and they looked like the team that they were for the majority of the season.
Correct.
Jalen Hurts looked healthy. Lane Johnson is just a ridiculous monster. I mean, he shut down Leonard Williams, and he's playing with like a tear in his abdomen. Like, he actively needs surgery.
Yeah, he says that. Yeah,
he needs surgery. He shouldn't be playing, and yet he's playing at an all-pro level at like 70%. And like, as an Eagles fan, I feel like I take him for granted, and I think everyone else in the NFL does as well. But I think even as Eagles fans as a whole probably take him for granted until he's not there, because he's just that good. But yeah, I mean, it went basically how I expected it to go.
Yep. Yeah, and I will say, too, what's intriguing for the Eagles is Jalen Hurts did look good. He did look healthy. I will say healthier. He didn't even look like the MVP level Hurts that he was 2 months ago and was still able to play that well, which is scary, especially going into a game against one of the best defenses in the NFL. Like, being able to see him make that, like, still be able to look like that when not maybe 100%. He himself said he was playing injured, like not fully injured, but not fully healthy. So really intriguing. And the one weakness I said the Giants would have, the weakness that would be like their huge kryptonite was Evan Neal. And that was just completely exploited the entire game. He could not stop anything. And that was very painful.
And they're on fire.
Yeah, and that's why Howie Roseman wins GM of the Year.
Yep.
That signing is
He did officially win that. Yeah. He won
yeah.
the PFWA Pro Football Writers
Yeah.
Association won.
Yep.
He did win that today. So
yeah, that was
congrats, Howie.
yeah, that one. Yeah, that pass rush is just insane. Either way, we could jump back up to how it went. Jags at Chiefs. Any thoughts on that?
I mean, shout out to Doug.
Mhm.
I don't think he coached a bad game. I think the Chiefs are just a better team.
Yeah.
Even without Mahomes, I think, the defense had a tough time, and that's kind of to be expected. Most teams do generally against Andy Reid, one of the greatest offensive minds of all time. Travis Kelce had a great game. They had no answer for him, and Pacheco was able to, I think a lot of it was on that one run that he bounced to the outside, but that one run looked incredible.
Yep.
And the running game as a whole was probably a little more active than it has been, and partially due to Mahomes' injury. But overall, I mean, I don't think the Jaguars should be upset. I think they should just kind of be happy with where they're at. And yeah, the Chiefs are the Chiefs. They were supposed to win the game, and they did. And I think it was closer than some people expected it to be. But in the end, it just came down to, I think it was closer than I even expected it to be, because they were really just a few missed plays away. But is what it is.
Yeah. I want to say shout out to Chad Henne, who has been in the NFL since 2008 and threw his first playoff touchdown pass in this game.
I think he might be a guy I went to college. That might be his uncle.
Yes.
Is that Chad? I always get Chad Henne confused with the other backup quarterback from Kansas City from the last couple of years.
It's Chad Henne.
Yeah.
I think we've discussed the story like a year ago or something. But Chad. I remember that. Like that's how I remember Chad Henne now.
And I argued with someone.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I argued with him about his uncle being better than my quarterback. It's beside the point.
Since 2008, his first playoff touchdown pass.
Good for him. He's living the dream. And he looked good out there. He actually had a better passer rate than Mahomes.
He did. He actually looked very good.
Stat, but it's funny anyway.
Yeah. The game was closer than I expected. And I think leading up to it, the Jags' whole thoughts on it, again, obviously you hope you're going to win, you think you're going to win. But even during the game, like Trevor Lawrence was, after one of the Christian Kirk touchdown passes, I believe, he went over to them and he's like, we're here. We're here. And that to me was really cool, because this team, I think, knew they weren't going to win a Super Bowl, and just saying, like, look at where we are at the beginning of a rebuild, a team that's had 2 consecutive first overall picks is here, and that's a big deal, and they've made smart choices, and that's a team. You and I have talked about the Jags and the Lions in the upcoming years and how we think they're going to be contenders, and this Jags team proved themselves earlier than expected. And I think Doug Peterson had done everything he possibly could with what he had out there, and I think they put up a better fight than I expected them to.
Trevor Lawrence's first career loss on a Saturday.
I know.
And the moment's not too big for him, which is always nice to see in a young quarterback. For instance, like, I'm not saying he's better or worse. Justin Herbert has not been able to prove that the moment isn't too big for him, and that's just something you have to deal with. It always is until it isn't. So.
Yep. And you've seen the way that Trevor Lawrence has adapted, right? Yep. In the start of the Chargers game was a guy who couldn't handle that light. That spotlight, and it was partially game. It was just the way the game was going. It was play calling. It was all that, but he fixed it and showed that he was meant to be there, which was really cool. And I'm very excited for his future. And on to the next. Why don't we talk about the Bengals at the Bills?
Yeah, this was more heartbreaking to me than the Giants-Eagles game. I mean, obviously I'm an Eagles fan, but I don't think outside of Giants fans, I don't think many people really expected the Giants-Eagles game to be close, and it shouldn't have been close. Yep. That was the biggest blowout of the playoffs so far, but this is probably number 2, where, score, it was 27-10, I think. It never even felt that close. I mean, the Bengals came out, and they just had control of the game. There was never a point in time where, like, I watched the whole thing. There was never a point in time where I felt that the Bills were anywhere close to make a comeback. Like, sometimes you watch those games and you kind of get that feeling of like, yeah, but I trust that they're going to come back and win it. Honestly,
there's like a buzz.
Yeah. But there was nothing. The Bills had nothing. And it was really sad to see, but we've been saying it for weeks. Josh Allen hasn't looked like himself. The Bills haven't looked like themselves. I mean, there's a reason that we both picked the Bengals.
Yep.
And yeah.
Yeah.
I wish I had more to say, but really the Bengals looked like the team that everyone thinks they are. And the Bills looked like a team that has a lot of soul searching to do this offseason.
Yep. I love the game that was called on Zach Taylor and the entire offensive staff for the Bengals. Honestly, better. I knew they were going to look good. They looked better than I expected. They really looked phenomenal out there. Joe Burrow is so cool. He really is. And another guy who's just the pressure will never get to him. Did you know apparently he's a nerd? Like I found all of these old videos, somebody posted them on TikTok of like him talking about like time travel and space things. Apparently he's a nerd.
Doesn't make him a
Love
nerd,
that.
Ashley. Stop putting people in your little boxes.
Oh God. Either way.
I'm a band nerd and I'm here talking about football.
You're exactly. I'm not saying you can't do both.
But I'm just saying, don't put people in your little boxes.
You just put yourself in a box.
I do. Yeah, I can put myself in a box.
Okay.
You shouldn't put other people in boxes.
Either way, the Bills are
cool.
due for a new stadium for next season, and the NFL fans are having a field day telling them to make it a dome because the Bills constantly talk about how the weather is used to their advantage, and this was a winter game at its finest, a January game in Buffalo with lots of snow that happened very fast. The field was covered in snow. There was really no time to prepare for it. And the Bengals didn't care about that so-called advantage the Bills have. And I do want to talk a little bit about Brandon Beane's comments, his post
I hated
like end of season comments, as did I. He started talking about how the Bengals have an advantage, that they have most of their money in rookie contracts with a lot of really young guys on the roster, and how he doesn't want to be so bad that he's able to draft a Jamar Chase. Because there was a lot of talk going into this game about how the Bills just didn't have enough weapons, which, again, I think is a really silly argument to be having with the player like Stephon Diggs on the roster. Either way, the way the NFL is shaping up, the market for skill positions is so different and people are just trading people away because they don't want to pay the huge contracts. But to make that comment is really stupid. I hate it. I really do not like the comment.
Yeah, it's just it's ignorant in my opinion. Like,
yeah,
I get it. You don't, but that's not the only way to acquire talent. You need to be creative about it. I mean, look at if you look at the Final Four teams right now, take the Chiefs out of it because Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid are their own beast. Yeah, you have Travis Kelce. The other three teams have probably the best wide receiving duos in the NFL.
Yeah.
AJ Brown, Devonta Smith, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Deebo Samuel, and Brandon Ayuk. Throw in Dallas Goedert, George Kittle, and Tyler Boyd, Joe Mixon, Miles Sanders, Christian McCaffrey. You don't have an excuse, man. Being good is not an excuse anymore. You see good teams be continuously good by making creative moves. Like the Eagles weren't in a position to grab an elite wide receiver in the draft last year. So what did they do? They traded for AJ Brown. They could have gotten the dude that the Titans ended up drafting with that pick, but they said no. We're going to win now, and we're going to go get an elite wide receiver right now. They traded for Stephon Diggs. They know better than anyone that you don't have to be in a position to draft Jamar Chase. It's very ignorant. It's ferrying the blame to someone else or something else or the situation and completely. I don't like it. Maybe it was taken a little bit out of context. I'm sure I'm probably overreacting to it, but they feel like very loser energy comments, very loser energy mindset. Like your mindset should be, we need to add more players. We need to figure out a way to do that because we're not going. Like I agree with what he's saying, but that's just not the way to say it. I don't like it. I'm not happy about it. And
I don't think the Bills organization of the last decade has a leg to stand on in that regard. Josh Allen was not a, AJ Brown or anything coming out of the NFL, but you were high enough to be able to draft a quarterback who is now a Super Bowl caliber quarterback. Like teams are bad at certain points, and you have been. So to make those comments is just tone deaf for the organization you're working for, I think, a little bit. Yeah. Either way.
Bad vibes all around for the Bills, which is unfortunate and sad.
I agree. Damar Hamlin did go to the game. really can't do this. I saw a tweet that said, so if, for those who don't know, there is conspiracy theories going around that Damar Hamlin is not alive. I don't even want to talk about it because it is so stupid. But the one thing I do want to mention is that there was a tweet that said, if Damar Hamlin wasn't alive, Cole Beasley would have told us.
That's true.
And that to me sums it all up. There's like,
but
no
I
other
will say
argument.
the NFL is not helping themselves.
No.
Like the video footage, I didn't think about this until I saw the conspiracy theories, but
Mhm.
like the footage of him that they were showing on TV was just like
Mhm.
horrible because of the snow.
The
And then
snow.
I don't know if you saw the video that ESPN posted.
Was it the one of him getting into the golf cart?
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, the one of him getting into the elevator.
Oh, yes. Uh-huh.
It's just like,
Yeah.
if you haven't seen it, try and find it. ESPN posted it.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I
Yeah.
have never seen, like, if that wasn't a body double, which again,
Mhm.
I don't think he is. I think he's
No.
fine. I don't think
Yes.
that it's a body double. What the hell? Post a picture of him. Just post a picture. That you're telling me that
Yeah.
nobody took a picture of him in that box during the game?
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
post it and shut everyone up. Don't
Yeah.
have this awkward looking video where like, oh my, it's just like he's covered head to toe.
Yep.
You can't see any
Yes.
part of his body. He's covered,
Yep.
surrounded by security. Like,
Yep.
oh my God,
Yeah.
what a
And
what
like,
a
listen, the
weird
man
way to
has been
handle it.
seen, like his Instagram, he does wear like balaclavas and like things that cover his head. I mean, Xavier McKinney showed up to the game in a zip up that went over his head.
Yeah, it's cold
It's
and
a
it's snowing.
style
I get it.
thing. I get it, but I understand
But
what you're saying to the
they're not
point that's like,
helping
just
themselves.
post a regular picture.
Just
Just
make it
one.
easier.
Yeah, I get that. But
Oh,
I did
man.
see that tweet. Either way, Damar Hamlin was at the game, so that
Maybe.
was the Bills' positive.
To be confirmed.
And the final game was the Cowboys at the Niners, the most boring of the games. My comments, you said your comments were LOL what or something. Mine was
LOL Cowboys.
yeah, mine was all capitals, ha 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 ha. So tell us what you think.
Dak, he's not a bad quarterback.
No.
But he's closer to the 12th best quarterback than he is the 20th best quarterback.
Mhm.
But he's not an elite quarterback. I don't even think he's that one step below elite. Like if you want to say elite is, I think there's kind of probably a tier of 3 in their own. I think it's
Mhm.
Mahomes, Allen, and Burrow. I think
Yep.
Burrow has worked his way up there. Then I think right under that you've got like the Herberts, Hurts, Lamar. I don't think Dak is in that tier.
No.
I think he's probably in the tier below, which is a pretty large tier.
Yep.
He's won 2 playoff games.
Yep.
Like it's just it. I don't know what else people have to see to just admit that he's not the guy that people think that he was. I don't know if it's because he was
Yeah.
a 4th round pick and people are like surprised that he's doing anything at all. And there's still so much hype from that surprising rookie year where he won rookie of the year and he shouldn't have. And even he knew he shouldn't have. Should have gone to Zeke. But like, I don't get it. He didn't play good football this year, not consistently. And you're running out of excuses because it's not a young thing. Like he's on this massive contract. And when players are on that contract, they either need to put up or shut up. And he's done a lot more shutting up than putting up. He's not performed like the Cowboys have not been to a conference championship game before either of us were born. Since before
Correct.
either of us were born. I think in 95.
Yep.
Dak isn't getting them there. Like if they get there, he's not going to be the reason. Because they had opportunities to win this game. They had plenty of opportunities to win this game. And Dak just shuddered and fell apart. And there was on that last drive, I think it was like not the last drive, but like the second to last drive. In that they had like 3 minutes left in the 4th quarter or something. He almost took a safety.
Yeah.
Such bad IQ and awareness. That's horrible, dude. That is so bad. And then he goes on and I forget if he threw a pick or almost threw a pick later in that drive. It's just like it's not good. And part of it is on the Cowboys for not building a competent team. They build a fine team, but not a great team. I mean, they took a chance with Amari by trading him away, hoping Michael Gallup will step up. He didn't. CeeDee Lamb's been great. That's just about it. You lost Tony Pollard. Tony Pollard was not winning them that game. And you shouldn't be depending on your quote-unquote backup running back to win the game when you're paying your quarterback and your running back $1 billion between the two of them. Dak is just not that guy. And I'm tired of anyone pretending that he is. So
Yep. And you're running, like you said, you're running out of excuses. There was excuses about him being young. There was excuses about him being inexperienced. Then he got hurt, and there was the excuses that he's coming back from injury and he's just getting the hang of it again. There are no more excuses. Like, the excuses to turn to the roster, which people have done better with worse rosters. So there are no excuses left. And I did want to talk about Tony Pollard. Tony Pollard did leave the game. He fractured his left fibula with an injury that will require surgery that has an average 3-month recovery, which is intriguing going into his free agency in the offseason.
He apparently should be back in training camp.
Yeah. But like, the game changed when he left. The Cowboys felt more alive when he was there. And if that isn't a sign that maybe paying Zeke all that money isn't a good option either, I don't know what is. Because Pollard was the one making a difference in that game. And whether it's in the box score or not, when he was in the game, the Cowboys felt more alive. And they just looked dead afterwards. And I would love to talk about that last play of the game, in which that video will live rent-free in my head for the rest of my life, of Zeke playing center and getting absolutely pancaked.
Mike McCarthy decided, no, we're not going to go out like losers. No. We're going to go out like a meme. And then they did. He did that for us, and I appreciate that.
I do. Very good content.
Also, one last thing on Dak, just because I'm angry.
Please.
So back when Dak and Carson Wentz were drafted, obviously Dak is the better quarterback. I think that argument is probably over by this point. I don't think you can make I think you can make a realistic argument that the peak that we've seen of Carson Wentz is better than the peak we've seen of Dak. In Dak's best season, they went 8-8. He threw for almost 5,000 yards, 30 touchdowns, and 11 interceptions. And he was fine. But he threw for those yards because he had to, and they went 8-8. Like, I just don't get what people have seen from Dak. I just don't get it. His best season is not that impressive. So he's never been in an MVP run. Like, he's never been in the running for MVP. Jalen Hurts has already had a better season than him. Tons of young quarterbacks have already had better seasons than him. I don't get it. Sorry.
Neither does the admin of the Cowboys Twitter account. Because at 11:58 p.m. on Sunday, the Dallas Cowboys official Twitter page tweeted, Dak Prescott gave away the ball twice in the narrow loss to the 49ers in a matchup the Cowboys had a chance to win if they didn't generate self-inflicted wounds. Hashtag Dallas at San Francisco. Hashtag Dallas Cowboys.
I mean, they're right.
Yeah, but I've never seen anything like that before. That was like
incredible.
One of the most egregious, like, Twitter things I've seen from an NFL team. That is just saying this was Dak's fault. Like, what? That was wild.
I loved it. Like, the Eagles had already won, so I'm just sitting back enjoying life, just watching the Cowboys lose. There's almost nothing as pleasurable as that. Yeah,
I agree. But more pleasurable, the Eagles are in the NFL Championship Sunday weekend. So we'll start there.
What was that sentence?
I had an
NFL
idea, and it didn't
Sunday
go
weekend.
Well. I
love
stuttered.
that good old championship NFL Sunday weekend.
Yep, exactly.
One of my favorite NFL Sunday weekends.
Yeah, I stuttered and then I lost. I couldn't figure out how to finish the sentence. So
I feel like I should feel bad for making fun of your stutter, but I've already.
That's all right. You're committed to it now.
Yeah.
Either way, the Niners are heading to Philadelphia to play the Eagles. That will be the early game on Sunday. That's 3:00. The Eagles are 2.5-point favorites. The current Super Bowl odds are Eagles plus 230 and Niners plus 320. Do you want to get us started?
Yeah. I mean, I think these are the best two teams that are remaining. Yeah. I think generally these are the best four teams remaining.
100%.
But I think when you look at the rosters in the NFL, if you take quarterback out of it, I think the two best rosters in the NFL are the Eagles and the Niners. Mm-hmm. I don't even know if it's particularly close behind that. And then if you add in so this is what kind of bothers me. Like, it's a close game, and I understand that the Niners are good, but I don't fully understand the logic of why people think it's as close as it is. I think the Eagles are going to win. And it's because you take away the quarterbacks, and like I said, these are two of the best rosters in the NFL. But then you're adding in most likely the runner-up for MVP or an MVP candidate and a 7th-round rookie quarterback that has not left the West Coast. He's played 2 road games, and none of them have been to the level of coming into Philadelphia for an NFC Championship game.
Yeah.
Like, the Niners are really good, but when you're looking at the rosters and you say these are two incredible rosters, and then you have the difference between an MVP caliber quarterback and a 7th round rookie who's been fine, like that's a big difference. I don't think people are making enough of a deal out of how big of a difference that is. And maybe I'm going to look stupid if the Eagles lose. And it's not that I don't think the Niners can win. Like, I don't think this is last week where I wasn't scared of the Giants.
Yep.
I'm scared of the Niners, but I think there's a really good reason that the Eagles are favorited, and I think that the Eagles should probably be more favorited.
Yeah, I think you should give them at least 3.
Yeah.
Not 2.5.
No.
Like at least 3 even. I don't know. I texted you during the Cowboys-Niners game in which I said the Eagles pass rush may eat either of these quarterbacks alive. And that's how I still feel. Brock Purdy may literally get eaten alive on national television by the Eagles pass rush. That is
The Niners don't
probably...
have a good offensive line.
No, and that's
They have
probably...
Trent Williams, who's great.
Yep, and that's one of the biggest weaknesses for them. And having Hassan Reddick come over that offensive line to annihilate Brock Purdy is going to be a common theme, I think, of this game.
Hassan Reddick and Brandon Graham.
Yeah, and I don't know that Brock Purdy can survive that. You and I have had conversations about how Brock Purdy is decent. He's holding his own in this, and he makes questionable decisions. And I'm not excited to see what those questionable decisions are going to be when you have Hassan Reddick jumping over the offensive line that's trying to protect you. I think it's going to be a closer game than like average, but I think the Eagles walk away with this one easily. I don't think it's going to be as hard. I did ask you before the show if you thought, as not as an Eagles fan, as someone who watches football, how do the Eagles put up points on San Francisco's defense, which is one of the best in the league?
So I'll make this really simple.
Mm-hmm.
You win football games with the trenches.
Mm-hmm.
The Eagles have the best defensive line and the best offensive line in the NFL. And they are both massive mismatches versus the Niners. We've already discussed how the Niners' offensive line is not that good. The Niners' defensive line has Nick Bosa, who is incredible.
Yep.
He'll be lining up against Lane Johnson. This is a much bigger test for an injured Lane Johnson. If Lane Johnson wasn't injured, I honestly wouldn't even be worried. Lane Johnson doesn't give up sacks. It doesn't matter who it's to. Look up his 2017 stats against the people that he had to play against week after week. It was literally a murderer's row, and it's engraved in my mind. Outside of Nick Bosa, I think the most sacks another player on their defensive line has is 6, if that. It's either 5 or 6. And they live in 4-down fronts. They're not going to be able to generate pressure without blitzing. And Jalen Hurts has been much better against the blitz as of late and in this season.
Yes.
If they can handle the blitz, there's not going to be an issue. There's not going to be an issue at all. And if they can run on them, which I think they might be able to run on them, because, again, the Niners live in 4-down fronts, while the Eagles will mix in a nose tackle and 5-man fronts. And they'll go like 5-1-5 with 5 DBs, which is a separate issue for the Eagles defense. But they might have a really easy time running against the Niners. And if they can run against the Niners and not have an issue, it's game over, because they'll control the clock. And the Eagles, I don't know if they led the league in rushing, but they were leading the league in rushing for the majority of the season. And then after that, the biggest weakness on the San Francisco 49ers defense, their top cornerback is okay. Their second quarterback, something Lenore, I forget his name. I had it written down earlier and I forget. He's not that good. He's fine. He's not that good. And he's going to be matched up against Devonta Smith or A.J. Brown. Their top cornerback doesn't travel that much. His name is escaping me at the moment. But he doesn't travel that much. A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith are most likely going to eat. I don't think this is going to be a big Dallas Goedert game, because they have the best linebacking core in the league, and their linebacking core is ridiculous with Fred Warner, Dre Greenlaw, and even the guy with the really hard last name that's their third linebacker. I don't think it's going to be a big Dallas Goedert game, and maybe that's the difference maker in the run game, but A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith should be all over these defensive backs. Their safeties are fine. They're average.
That's what I was going to say. Their secondary, their cornerbacks are fine. I think that's where you exploit them. Cornerbacks. I do want to point out one stat I had down, which for the Niners is something to exploit, is that Alex Rollins had tweeted out something interesting, which is that Hurts passing numbers get cut in half when you force him out of the pocket. He has a 37% completion percentage, 4.2 yards per attempt, and a 52.5 QBR, which is QB rating. So I think if I'm the Niners, that's one of my game plans, but that's a lot easier said than done.
Yeah.
And I do want to talk about the Eagles ran an immense amount of 21 personnel against the Giants, and
there was that one drive was incredible.
Oh my God.
It was like Sanders for 7, Sanders for 4, Sanders for 2, Sanders for 9, Sanders for 11, Sanders for 6, Hurts for 10.
Yep. And the 21 personnel is so it seems so easy to use when you're running 2-back sets, but with a defensive line that has Nick Bosa, but a lot of gaps, that 21 personnel is going to come in handy for the Eagles against the Niners. And I think they're, again, are going to use that run game to open up the passing game, because Sirianni and the entire offense, like the offensive staff at the Eagles, has done a really good job at baiting you into it. Like, they will run 21 personnel consistently right up until they have you, and then throw a 40-yard bomb to A.J. Brown. Like, they're very good at baiting you into it. We'll say if there's one person who can catch it, it probably is Kyle Shanahan and that staff, but I don't really see I see a much clearer path for the Eagles to win than the Niners to win.
The Niners gave up the most 50-plus yard passing plays in the entire NFL this season.
Good.
And during like the last round, they gave, I think it was like a 49-yard pass to CeeDee Lamb. Yep. So that's their key to victory on offense. Yep. The Niners, though, I think it's going to be a higher scoring game than people are expecting, because I think the Niners also have very clear mismatches against the Eagles defense. Part of this is absolutely going to be Jonathan Gannon versus Kyle Shanahan. Jonathan Gannon, are you just going to be a moron? He was not a moron in the divisional round, and I give him credit. He blitzed, he mixed up his fronts, which, by the way, speaking of disguising, mixing up fronts, the Niners don't do that, which is good for the Eagles offense. They are just, we are talented and we're going to beat you. They're not going to confuse you. That's an advantage for the Eagles. But the Niners, I mean, Christian McCaffrey and Elijah Mitchell are incredible. George Kittle's incredible. And the Eagles linebackers are not that good. TJ Edwards is fine. He's good. He's a solid NFL player, but he is not Dre Greenlaw or Fred Warner. Kaiser White was exposed a lot toward the end of the season after a really strong start to it. And if either of them are covering George Kittle, that's a mismatch. That's an issue. Now, they might get Avonte Maddox back this weekend, which might be really great for them. Maybe that means that CJ is on George Kittle pretty consistently. But if the Eagles are living in 5 down fronts because they want to stop the Niners run game, meaning that they have a nose tackle, 2 defensive tackles, and 2 ends, 5 guys along the defensive line, then that just means there's going to be mismatches and there's going to be room for them to take advantage of other places on the places on the defense. That is what this Niners team is really good at. That's what Kyle Shanahan is really good at, is getting his guy matched up one-on-one with a guy that he wants to take advantage of, individual matchups. That is really scary for the Eagles defense. That being said, if they can get home to Brock Purdy, it might not matter, because he's a rookie 7th round quarterback coming into Philadelphia. And that's got to be horrifying.
Yeah, that's I also would really, really wish if the players would stop getting baited into talking about how loud the other stadiums are, because this has happened for both games coming up this weekend. That one of the Niners players was asked about, going into Philadelphia, and he was like,
I'm pretty sure.
Was it? Yeah. I couldn't remember exactly. I didn't want to misspeak, so maybe Debo, but was baited into saying, well, no one will ever be as loud as the Niner gang. Stop doing
you're
that.
You're a moron. You're a moron.
Stop doing that.
Stop lying to yourself. First of
all you're doing is asking for trouble. Look at what happened with Trevor Lawrence and the Chiefs. You could barely hear the announcers on the television. Stop doing that, please. I beg. I did want to mention real quick, we did say we wanted to give out game balls to to the teams that had won. Who was your Eagles game ball winner from the last game?
Kenny Gainwell.
I like it.
He was the first Eagles rusher to have 100 yards in a playoff game since, I believe, I want to say LaShawn McCoy, but it might have been Brian Westbrook. It might have gone even farther back.
I like it.
I think it was Brian Westbrook. Sorry.
Dallas Goedert. But what about the Niners? Very clearly for me, George Kittle.
Yeah, George Kittle.
Yeah, perfect.
Also, real quick, last thing where I think this is an advantage for the Eagles. Kyle Shanahan is a fantastic offensive mind. He's a bad head coach. From the pure, this drives me insane. He was quoted after the game saying, "We liked where the score was at," when they were trying to not score before going into halftime. It was 6-6.
Yeah.
And he was like, "No, we like the score like that. Let's not try and score. We're just going to run the clock out." You are a moron. You have one of the best offenses in the NFL, and you treat it as if your offense is the 0-16 Cleveland Browns.
Yeah.
What is wrong with you, you absolute buffoon? It pisses me off. It pisses me. It's so frustrating. And if I was a Niners fan, I would be losing my mind.
Yeah.
And now, granted, I'm lucky because I went from Doug Peterson, who popularized this whole craze, to Nick Sirianni, who has no issues going for it all the time. By the way, Brian Dable going for it on 4th and 8 was one of the weirdest things I've ever seen.
And then doing a mercy punt, punt,
and not to mention
on
the only scoring drive took about 9 minutes when you were trailing by like 40 points. Very stupid, Brian Dable. Not really sure what.
Very
was
odd.
On there.
It was not like him for the rest of the season, but
but he had some of those moments this season.
He did.
But that's the thing. Nick Sirianni has not had. I can't think of any off the top of my mind this season where it's been like, dude, what is your decision? Yeah. Kyle Shanahan has like 3 a game, and in a close game, that's going to matter. If this is a close game, Kyle Shanahan being an idiot and a coward will cost the 49ers. It's one thing against the Dallas Cowboys that are not able to score points, apparently, against this defense.
Yep.
The Eagles will not be afraid to go for it on 4th and 3 in your territory. Kyle Shanahan, you should be trying to score points because chances are your offense will convert because they're good. You're a moron. I don't get it. How can you be so good at so many things and you just fail miserably at something that is it can be purely analytics based? Just have a dude in your ear that's saying, "Hey, you should go for it here."
Here's the stats.
No, I think we're gonna punt in opposing territory because we're gonna play the field position. No, you're a moron. Sorry.
I like 6-6. 6 is my favorite number. Let's keep it.
I hate watching Niners games. Because important Niners games, because Kyle Shanahan just does this thing, and it's so stupid. It's like Brandon Staley. It's like Sean McVay. I don't get it. How can you be so intelligent and so good at certain things and be such
It's like you big brain yourself into being dumb.
I don't get it. How could you like the score 6-6? You're driving like it, and then you still buy it. You're just
you double down.
Sorry. Move on.
It's okay. On to the next. We're running short on time. So we'll talk about the Bengals, who are heading to the Kansas City Chiefs at Arrowhead. That'll be our night game for Sunday at 6:30. The Chiefs are 1-point favorites. The Super Bowl odds currently are Chiefs at +260 and Bengals at +280. So the Chiefs are second in line for the Super Bowl and Bengals are third.
Is that to make or to win?
To win.
Okay.
Yeah, so it goes Eagles, Chiefs,
back on top, baby.
Bengals, Niners. All right. Do you want to get started on this one, or do you want me to start?
Yeah, you can start. I just did a lot of talking.
You did. I don't really have too much. My one thing that I really did have here was please stop talking about how loud stadiums are, because that was also said about this game. This Bengals team feels like it's at the perfect speed to match this Chiefs team right now. I think the Chiefs defense is going to have a hard time with this Bengals offense. It's another one where there's just too many ways to beat them and exploit that Chiefs defense. The Chiefs defense has been better as of late, but a Chiefs team that I don't want to put the entirety of the offense on Mahomes, but if Mahomes is not looking the way that he usually does, Mahomes couldn't even make a pass off for a run play towards the end of that game. It does seem like he's looking what?
Handoff.
What did I say?
A pass off.
Oh, a handoff. He could only make passing plays when he planted, like when he was set after the snap. He could not plant his foot to pass it off, to hand it off. I'm all over the place, but so I think Mahomes is going to be the key here of how his health is doing. I think I really easily picked the Bengals in this one.
Man, this is
This is what the NFL wanted. I'll tell you that.
Oh yeah, I think this is what every NFL fan should want. Like,
Yeah.
I think that the Eagles and the Niners are probably two better teams, but this might be the most exciting game of football all season.
Yeah.
Because
And this is like a look what you have to look forward to for the next decade of football.
Like
game.
Burrow, man, it's just like it's so cool, and it's so right now. It's so easy to root for these two guys, and that's so nice. Because we're not tired of them yet. But like, just play this exercise for me. Bengals win. Joe Burrow is now 4-0 against Patrick Mahomes all time.
Yep.
Patrick Mahomes has one Super Bowl. He's made two, lost one, won one. Bengals win the Super Bowl. That means that Burrow has been to two Super Bowls, won one, lost one, still on his rookie contract. And he's 4-0 against Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes is the better quarterback.
Yeah.
But at what point do we start talking about Joe Burrow in the same conversation that we talk about Patrick Mahomes in terms of legacy at that point? Like, that's what's so interesting to me, because it's starting to really remind me of Brady Manning, like in a way that I'm not sure I ever thought we'd get. Allen Mahomes flirted with it a little bit, but Mahomes is kind of turning out to be a little more Peyton than Brady.
Yeah.
Burrow is turning himself into the Brady in that conversation. Mahomes is going to win the regular season MVPs. Peyton Manning has the most all time. I think he still has the most all time. I forget if Brady tied him or not.
So too.
And he has all the stats without the longevity that Brady has. And Mahomes has all the, but like it's a really interesting conversation. I'm really excited to be witnessing this portion of it.
Yeah.
Like I'm not even talking about the game right now. I'm just talking about, like, if I had been, like, obviously I was alive for the beginning of Brady Manning, but like I didn't watch football to the extent that I did now. I saw the tail end of it when it was developed. Like, this is so likely to become that type of rivalry, and it's so cool. And I think there's two possible scenarios here. Like, Mahomes wins, and it's like it really is that feeling of getting a monkey off your back, that they could not beat these Bengals. They couldn't do it. No matter how good they are, they could never seem to beat those Bengals. That's how it felt with the Colts. It didn't matter what happened in the regular season. They couldn't get past the Patriots until they did. And with the Bengals, they just continue to dominate what I think most people would agree is the best coach QB duo in the NFL right now, and will likely go down as probably one of the best all time. I don't think that's weird to say right now, because Andy is already cementing he's one of the greatest coaches of all time, and Patrick Mahomes might be the most talented quarterback we've ever seen. We'll see what the rest of his career looks like, but they just might have a thorn in their side in the name of Joe Burrow. And it's incredible. It's so cool to watch, because Joe Burrow is just so chill. Like, Mahomes is so fun to watch. He's so fun to watch because he does all this crazy stuff. And you always think you have a chance to score. But Joe Burrow is just like, he is the dude smoking the cigar. He is that picture of him. It just Joe Cool. He is that. It's so interesting. It's so fun. I'm so excited for this matchup.
Yep. It feels like the perfect, like, cataclysm of the new NFL being ushered in, like, at the perfect time, and just finally reaching that point that, like, you know, these old guys are really on their last leg, and this is the new start. And it's just like like you said, it's cool to be able to witness it, whether you have a stake in this game or not. And both of the teams are really likable, and that's, I think, what's really interesting. We're not
at the villain point with either.
No, exactly. And I think that's why it's fun. I do like that the AFC is back. Back in the talking to each other on Twitter, like Eli Apple does, and the rivalries, Eli Apple.
I'm so sick of him.
Yeah. So am I. I'm a Giants fan. I've been sick of Eli Apple. But
I still think that's the best Giants pick of all time. The fact that you picked a guy in the Big Apple named Apple, and also his first name is Eli.
Yeah.
Maybe one of the most famous Giants of all time. I just think it was the perfect pick. When they picked him, I was like, oh, of course. I would do that. That's like how Dallas Goedert should have been a Dallas pick. It made sense.
Yeah.
But no, alas.
Philly Goddard. I didn't know they actually called him that until I asked you that one day.
Dallas week, we call him Philly Goddard.
Yeah. Either way, it's the AFC feels back. And I think this is also, like, that perfect point of being like, see, the NFL's like, see, the AFC is back. And It's intriguing. So even if we don't go much into the game, who do you think is going to win this one?
Oh man, I'm going to take the Bengals,
Ah,
and I'm going to do it because of the Mahomes injury.
Yeah, that's exactly why I'm riding with
tough,
too.
But
yeah,
I want the Chiefs to win. I will say that I want the Chiefs to win.
I want the Bengals to win.
Fair enough.
Yeah, they're just. I can't you were talking about
picks for Niners, Eagles?
We didn't. I think we were both very clear that we were riding with the Eagles, though.
I'm riding with the Eagles.
I knew that. I was pretty clear that I think the Eagles are going to win that one. Yeah. That video, did you see the clip of Joe Burrow warming up in the snow, doing like the little spin? He tossed it and then spun around after. I'll have to send it to you. It's pretty cool. And that's when we've been talking about Joe Burrow being cool and just cool under pressure, cool guy smoking the cigar, who everyone thought was going to get like come into the NFL and be like have like a total welcome to the NFL thing. Like he's not going to be cool anymore.
He tore his ACL and since then has made 2 conference championship games and
like
one
what?
Super Bowl. Like
what?
I don't know what kind of start of a career you could want from that.
Yeah.
Like there's never really been a point where he's looked bad. He's just looked good from day one.
Yep.
And it's wild.
And the tradition of game balls going back to the bars of Cincinnati has lived on. The last game ball did go to a bar. One of the players brought it to the first bar he ever attended when he went to Cincinnati. I don't think Zach Taylor did it this time, but the game ball did go back to a bar in Cincinnati.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, any other thoughts on the leading into Championship Sunday?
Yes, I do have one other thought.
Okay. In 6 games against number 1 seed, the Giants, since the playoffs restructuring in 1990, the Giants are a perfect 6-0. That 6-game win streak versus the number 1 is the longest by any franchise in the NFL since the NFL began seeding the playoff teams in 1975. I love this Giants team.
Do you think they're going to win?
Yes. Since 97, I think the Giants win 1 game. If they win the first game, they end up going to the Super Bowl. I do think the Giants walk away with this one, and at that, I think it's a little bit more low scoring than people are expecting. I think the Giants are end up winning it on like a pick 6. I think expect this team to be here. So, do I think it's going to win? Yes. I'll take your real victory too because they're going to win. The Giants are going to win. The Giants have the vibes, man. What's your final score prediction?
38-7.
Wow. Great.
That was really my final thought.
Great. I'm so glad. Tell people where they can find you. You're like literally cheesing like a little kid on Christmas.
I kid you not. Like when
did you make that? Did you make it after the game?
Oh yeah, I made that. I made that on. I made that Wednesday during the day. Yesterday. I kid you not. When I finally added the clown music and the zoom in,
it all came together.
I was dying.
Yeah.
I was dying. I sent it to a ton of my friends.
Yep.
That are Eagles fans, and because I was like, I can't wait to show this to people.
Jake's gonna love it.
I will say so I said during the game. Well, I had those clips in my head. I was like, when we win, I'm going to make something. Then I'm watching the game with my buddy Nick, and we went up like 14-0 or whatever it was. And I was like, oh, I'm going to clown Ashley so hard. Oh, I'm going to clown her so hard. And then the first time I watched it probably 40 times in a row. Just like
admiring your own masterpiece.
It was, it's nothing special, but I think it got the job done.
It did. Listen.
And God, your face is just so confident during it.
It is, yeah.
And like, some of those lines, like 38-7. Wow.
Yeah.
Like, wow, you're an idiot, Michael. You're a stupid idiot.
Listen, I was wrong. I'll fully admit that.
I know.
Okay, I can take it.
I'm just really proud of myself.
I'm proud of you.
I'm not a video producer, but I'm gonna put that on my resume, I think.
Okay, perfect. When make like a little portfolio, you can put that in there.
It's just gonna be that though.
Yeah, that's works.
My whole portfolio.
Yeah, it'll get you hired in Philly, I think.
Oh, I think so.
Yeah.
I would absolutely send that on a resume in Philadelphia. 100% I would.
Yep. I like it.
I am going to tweet it out also.
Good.
Just an
Great.
FYI.
Thank you.
Okay.
Figured. I had a feeling when she showed it to me that even if I said please don't, you would. So
No, happy to help. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. You haven't told people where they can find you.
I don't care. You can find me on
Okay.
Twitter at mpduncan75. You probably won't find me at the NFC Championship game because Ticketmaster sucks.
The Senate is, or
I know.
Congress is having hearings about
Senate.
Ticketmaster.
There's Senate, yeah.
Senate. Okay.
Yeah, they suck.
Yeah.
Whatever.
I don't like Ticketmaster either. Me and all my homies hate Ticketmaster.
I
Either way.
Homies.
You can find me on Twitter at Ashley_Marie with 2 A's and Ashley. Me, Duncan, all of the Undroppables on our premium Discord channels, which you can get access to by becoming a patron at patreon.com/theundroppables. Yeah, I think that's about it. That wraps it up. I hope everyone has a lovely championship Sunday. Yeah, that's it.
All right.
Okay.
Have a great weekend. Enjoy football
Bye.
and go Birds.